During the month of February 1978, I received a call from a 35-year-old single mother who will be referred to as Sandra. Sandra told me that she, her mother, and her daughter had had many encounters with UFOs and had seen alien beings. She told me on the phone that alien-like beings had walked through the walls into their home through a black rotating hole on numerous occasions and had taken them away to a place they cannot remember, since after they would walk through the hole they would black out. It seems that this was going on since Sandra's mother was 9 years old, and she also recalls times when she was a child going through the black hole. Then she told me that it stopped for many years, and it started up once again with Sandra's daughter Kathy being the focus of attention. I called the team and gave them the background into the case. They all were anxious to go and visit this person since the number of abduction cases available at this time was few. We arrived at Sandra's home in Cold Springs, New York on the evening of February 16th, 1978. The weather was warm for that time of the year, with a light mist in the air. After the normal formalities, I asked about her experiences. Sandra told us that she had many sightings of UFOs when she was a child, but most of what she saw as an adult were balls of light that followed her car and came into her home. She said that on one occasion, a blue ball of light came into her home through a living room window, and as it did, the television and lights all went out, only to come back on again when the object disappeared through the ceiling. She then said that on several occasions, the globes of light would follow her while she drove home, whether it was day or night. As we sat in her modest living room, her daughter Kathy, then 10 at the time, pointed to the window and said,
"UFO out there."
We all ran to the window and then opened the door and witnessed a yellow globe of light, about 6 inches or so in diameter, move across the front lawn at about 50 feet from the house. The light was about 10 feet or so above the ground, and it seemed to be wobbling as it moved from right to left. I walked out the door trying to get closer to the light with the hope of getting a better look at it, while my partners were flashing their cameras. As I got to within 20 feet of it, I felt a tingling up and down my neck, as if there were static electricity in the air. The light then stopped in midair as if observing me, and then shot straight up into the sky. Needless to say, when I returned to the house, we were quite excited. We all sat once again in the living room, and Sandra began to tell us how the space people came and got them, and how they didn't remember where they were since they would wake up in their beds. She told us that the space people looked like the statues of some of the gargoyles she had seen on top of old buildings and in pictures on some of the churches in Europe. She said that when they are taken, the aliens do not say anything, and they seem powerless to resist. Sandra also told us that her daughter Kathy would talk to them during the day and night, and at times, as if in a trance, she would say something like,
"We want to come into your world. Work with us, and we will reward you."
Despite our questioning, Sandra insisted that she knew this was not her daughter talking. This aspect of the case was getting a little strange for me and the others, so we talked Sandra into allowing us to bring a psychologist next time, who was trained in regression hypnosis. Sandra eagerly agreed, since she wanted to get to the bottom of the strange things that had been happening to her family over the past years. So a date was set for March 15th. At about 2 p.m., we arrived for the regressive hypnosis session at Sandra's home. It took quite a long time, perhaps a half hour or so, before she relaxed and went under. She started by relating a sighting that she and her daughter had in 1976, where she was awakened at about midnight by a buzzing sound that seemed to be vibrating through the house. She got out of bed and walked into the living room to find her daughter walking around in circles saying,
"The people from the hole are here, the people from the hole are here, the people from the hole are here, the people from the hole are here."
She said that her daughter seemed to be in a trance, and she had to grab her by the shoulders and shake her to get her out of it. She still heard the noise and walked outside to the deck and saw a red object in the sky that looked like a blur. As she watched, the red blur changed from a circle to an oblong shape or an ellipsis. At that moment, she regressed to a time when she was a child and woke up in the early hours of the morning to find 3 beings with leather-like skin standing over her bed, smiling at her. She was only 5 at the time, and they told her that they would not hurt her because they needed people like her to work with. She then saw a spinning black hole appear, and the beings were sucked into it. At this point, she started breathing heavily, and the psychologist had to calm her down because the experience as a child was too traumatic for her to handle. The next experience she remembers was a night in the winter of 1977, where she and her daughter were sleeping together in the same bed. Sandra often did this since she was afraid that the beings from the hole would take her daughter and not return her. She remembers waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning to see a figure standing at the foot of her bed. The man was about 6 feet tall and dressed in something like a monk's robe with a hood over his head. He then pulled the hood off of his head, and she gasped in fear because he looked like the devil with long ears and a pointed nose. His skin was like leather, and there seemed to be a blue glow illuminating the room. The being pointed to her daughter, and when he did this, she put her arms around young Kathy because she thought he wanted to take her. He said in a hoarse, deep voice,
"I need you to come with me, and in return I will give you whatever you desire."
She yelled at the creature and said, "No, get out of here!" and started praying to God and the angels for help. The being then looked angry and said,
"God has no power here. I will come for you when I am ready."
The creature then vanished through a swirling black hole that appeared on the right side of the wall. Sandra slept with the lights on every night after that, and the same being would make at least 3 more appearances over the next 2 months during the day and night, and would make the same request. With each appearance, she said no to the creature and prayed, and each time it looked angry and vanished. As soon as Sandra woke up, she got up and ran to her daughter Kathy's room. Before she reached the room, Kathy started screaming and jumped out of bed and met her mother in the hall and held on to her and said,
"The man from the hole came and said he was going to take me."
Her mother tried to tell her it was only a dream. This child was scared half to death, and I could feel the tension and a presence in the house that I could only classify as evil.